back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. Back now to Iowa, where a woman is facing life in prison without parole if convicted of murdering her husband. Prosecutors say that defendant Karina Cooper planned and carried out the murder of her husband, Ryan, hand in hand with her lover, Houston Danker. Ryan was found with 2 gunshot wounds to his face, shot at close range in the couple's home back in 2021. And a deputy noted that Ryan's body was in a recliner and Karina was sitting on top of him crying. All right, let's get you back into that courtroom now. On the stand is a responding officer. His name is Deputy Kyle Fengman.
All right, you may resume your questioning.
Thank you. State Exhibit 104. Can you describe to the jury what you're saying in State Exhibit 104?
That's a picture of Ryan sitting in the recliner.
Is that the recliner that you found the defendant on top of him when you arrived?
Correct.
What do we see behind him? Is that the door? Is a door with the glass middle of it? Is that the door that you said you observed that was closed?
Correct.
And that's what you'll describe as the living room door?
Correct.
Let's go to State Exhibit 105. Can you tell the jury what we're seeing in 105?
Yeah, it's just a picture of the right side of Ryan's face and upper shoulder and chest area.
You talked about the nature of the blood that you observed when you got to Ryan. Can you describe what we're seeing in terms of that?
The shirt is covered in blood. The darker parts are all staining from where the blood had soaked to.
Will you describe this blood that was on him at some point in his shoulders as appearing to be chunky?
Correct.
And based on your time of arrival, this would have been shortly after 4:42 in the morning.
Correct.
What we're seeing is what you'll describe as the right side of his face.
Correct.
Did you see anything that appeared to be injuries on his right side of the face?
No, just the blood out of the nose on that side.
The nature of the blood that was coming or that you're observing, was it confusing to you in the sense of his whole face appeared to be covered in blood?
There was quite a bit of blood, yes.
So even on the left side of his face, which didn't appear to have any injuries or any wounds, there appeared to be blood that was smeared on the left side of his face.
Right side?
On the right side of his face, sorry.
Yes, right side. Correct.
Is that fair?
Correct.
Showing you what's been admitted as State Exhibit 106.
Correct.
Can you tell the jury what we're seeing in 106?
That's showing the large pool of blood that was on the floor. And then the center of it, you can see the line kind of right through the middle of it is where it was smeared from someone stepping in it.
So you see what appears to be a smear in this pool of blood, and what also called on the far front of the picture, fair to say you see something that appears to be like footprints?
Yep, bare footprints.
You describe the blood. Is this part of the blood that you're observing that appeared also to be coagulating?
Yes.
Or coagulated?
Correct.
Showing you 107. Can you walk the jury through what we see in 107?
This is the left side of the chair. You can see the blood has run down the side of the recliner, and it's documenting the injuries that are on the left side of the face.
So we see blood on the recliner that seems to pull and go down on the left side of the recliner.
Correct.
And for us to zoom it, can you see that better?
Yes.
Are those later what you determined appeared to be what will be bullet or gunshots on his face.
Correct.
So at some point in your investigation, you later determined that.
Correct.
But that's when you testified earlier that that's the side of his face, this is the left side of his face that has appeared to be injured.
Correct.
Showing you what has been admitted as State Exhibit 108. Can you tell the jury what we're saying?
Yes, that's the handgun that I found when I first entered the house. That's the Smith & Wesson 9mm.
This is the gun that you determined later that belonged to Aaron Cooper, Ryan Cooper's brother.
Correct.
Showing you what's been admitted as 109. And I could zoom it up for you. Can you tell the jury why you took this picture or why one of your officers took this picture?
That picture showing blood that was on that wall.
And is that part of your testimony that there appeared to be what's called blood spatter?
Correct.
It's been admitted as 110. Can you tell the jury what we see with 110?
Yes, that's the east wall of the living room, the door, the light switch, and then there's blood splatter on that wall as well.
Can you describe where you see the blood spatter for the jury?
It's the dots that are, there's one right on the light switch panel, and then there's a couple more between the window and the light switch, and I believe there's some below the light switch panel as well.
Is there blood on the floor?
There is, where the floor grate is, all that coloring there is blood.
And are there some blood that you can see or traces of blood that you can see on this door that leads into or out of the living room?
Correct.
Fair enough to say that 111 is another picture of a trace of blood on the wall?
Correct.
Can you tell us what you're seeing as you take 112?
That was after Ryan was moved to the floor, more blood ran out of the wounds, so photos were taken of that to document it.
Can you tell us what you observe on the nature of the wounds in terms of size or from your training and experience as an officer who's fired weapons before? What do you see?
It's not a very large caliber. It'd be about the size of what like a pencil would be, give or take.
So a small caliber rifle or firearm was used to make those injuries?
Correct.
And you see what appears to be what you'll describe as entrance wounds?
Yes.
2 of them?
Yes.
Do you observe anything that appears to be exit wounds on Ryan Cooper's face?
No.
Fair enough to say 113 would be a different orientation of the same picture we've seen?
Correct.
Now, as you take it, his mustache, is blood flowing all over that part of his body?
Yes.
You did not observe any wounds or injuries on that part at that point?
Just around where the bullet wounds are.
And as you describe, the nature of this blood, again, if you look at his collar, is it drying or coagulating?
It's coagulating.
What do you see on 115?
That's a end table that's below the window that's on that east wall of the living room.
So below the window, closer to the door?
Yes.
What do we see there?
There.
All right, let's step aside here. Let's bring in our guest for this hour. Still with us, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Marie Pereira. Marie, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me this hour. First and foremost, let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing there. Number one that I'm seeing jumps right out at me is this defendant just constantly crying. She's been crying throughout the trial. This is the first day of the trial. She's crying. When they arrive at the scene, she's on top of her husband, who had been shot. Blood all over her, blood on him. She's crying. What do you make of her demeanor in the courtroom?
Well, clearly she understood the assignment because someone told her, I'm sure her attorney, look distraught because this is a terrible thing that happened to your husband and you had nothing to do with it, even though you're being accused. So that part she's doing well. But I love the testimony from this law enforcement officer with no dog in this race. And you notice he keeps saying coagulated blood. That's no mistake because allegedly she called 911 crying hysterically. But when they came, the blood was already coagulated, which means maybe the husband was sitting there bleeding out and she was just there figuring out what to do. It wasn't a phone call to 911 made immediately because why would the blood be coagulated? So this is really good testimony and I'm curious to see where it's going, but it's going to her guilt. Maybe the fact that she didn't call 911 right away. She was planning, plotting, figuring out. I love this testimony for prosecution because it's making me see her more guilty than ever.
Let me ask you about the fact that she's on top of him when they arrive. It seems suspicious to me. And I'll tell you why. I mean, again, I guess if you love someone enough and you find them in a recliner, shot, you might jump on them. But the first place my mind went, Marie, was maybe she was the one responsible. We heard about the blood spatter on the walls behind him. If she shot him at close range, which we heard he was shot at close range, maybe some splattered on her, and she was like, okay, what do I do? If I get on him and act like, you know, I'm sort of hugging him, that would cover up some of the splatter on me. That's honestly where my mind went. I don't know if that's because I've worked at Court TV too long, but that's what I was thinking. What do you make of her climbing all over him when they arrived and crying on top of him?
It could be just a ploy to look like, oh my God, my man is dead. What am I going to do? And she's hovering over him. Next, she's going to say maybe she was trying to do CPR or something, that she loved him so much. But the fact that the kids were in the house and one of the children allegedly slipped in the blood and the blood is now coagulated when this law enforcement officer came to investigate. That, for me, makes her look rather suspect. But I'll say it again. She sure understood the assignment because she gets an Oscar for looking pitiful, homely, and distraught at this moment.
Now, you're a former nurse, so tell us a little bit about what it means to be coagulated, the blood. I'm sure there's going to be an expert coming on later to testify to that, maybe the MA or somebody else, to talk about that aspect of the case. But right now, explain to our viewers why coagulation is something that's an important part, because it was even mentioned in the opening statement by the state. It's something he wanted this jury to pay very close attention to.
Absolutely. Like I said, because, you know, you don't even have to be a nurse to understand. Blood comes out very thin, very liquid, very red, right? When it sits there, it starts to thicken like any liquid. And the fact that it was coagulated says that there was time between when the blood ran out of his body, rested where it rested, and the police came. Why was the blood thick? If as soon as you figured out what happened to your husband, he was shot in the face twice, you call 911 all hysterical. Why is the blood looking old and dusty on the ground? Because you waited a while before you called the police. And that's an issue that tends to support guilt.